Okay, let's just jump right into it. What if an algorithm knew your relationship was on the rocks before you did? Sounds like sci-fi, right? Well, today on The Explainer, we're going to break down a technology that promises to do just that. We're talking about applying some serious data forensics to, the messy, complicated world of love. So, let's start with the system's boldest claim. And this is pulled right from their marketing. Get this: predict the end before it happens. Wow. I mean, that's basically a crystal ball for your love life, right? An early warning system for heartbreak. But you gotta wonder, how on earth could a machine possibly know something so personal? Well, the technology comes from a company called Zocialized, and their whole approach really boils down to this one simple question. What if your relationship had a score? Yeah, like a credit score. Imagine tracking its health the same way you track your stocks or your fitness goals, with just one single, easy-to-read number. And that question brings us to the core philosophy behind this whole thing. The big idea is this: love is chemistry, and chemistry is data. Kinda wild, right? So let's dig in and see how they actually try to pull this off. All right, so here it is, the Bond Integrity Monitor, or BIM for short. What it does is use your biometric data, think heart rate, stuff like that, and a behavioral AI to track what it calls your connection's heartbeat. See, the thinking here is that relationships often fail because we're just not picking up on the super subtle warning signs. The BIM is basically designed to be a net that catches all those tiny signals and turns them into a daily integrity score. And this really shows you the massive shift in thinking we're talking about here. On one side, you've got traditional love, right? It's all about mystery, emotion, trust, all that fuzzy stuff. But on the other side, you have quantified intimacy, and that's all about data, telemetry, probability. It's literally a move from the heart to the hard drive. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how does this thing actually gather all that data? Well, the system hones in on three key invisible signs. First up is something they call bioresonance. Now, this is fascinating. By tracking your wearables, say when you're on a virtual reality date, it measures what they call physiological linkage. It's literally checking to see if your hearts are beating in sync. And if your heart rates start to decouple or drift apart, the system flags that as one of the very first biological signs of emotional withdrawal. Incredible. The second sign is called semantic drift. Think of this as pure language forensics. The AI digs through your chat history looking for what's called pronoun separation, and this is that super subtle, often subconscious shift from saying we and us to saying I and me. When it spots that, the system triggers a detachment alert, and this can happen weeks, even months, before anyone consciously decides the relationship is over. And then there's the third data stream, latency decay. This one is so simple, but it's really powerful. The algorithm just calculates your average time to reply. So let's say your response time goes from, 5 minutes to suddenly 4 hours, and it stays that way for a couple of weeks. Boom, it flags a critical loss of interest. Because in the eyes of the algorithm, you've just been deprioritized. Okay, so it's gathering all this incredibly complex data. And then what? Well, it all gets boiled down and served up to you on a single, easy-to-read relationship dashboard. And right at the top, the headline feature is the churn probability score. This is a single live percentage that tells you the statistical likelihood of a breakup within the next 30 days. Just pause and imagine that for a second. Looking at your phone and seeing a big number, 12%, just staring back at you. What would you even do with that information? Right below that big score, you get a live telemetry feed. And honestly, it looks a lot like a patient's monitor in a hospital room. It's giving you a real-time snapshot of your relationship's vital signs, its current status, the risk level, and, yeah, even your heart rate sync. But it doesn't stop there. The system goes way deeper, tracking a whole bunch of other micro-interactions. We're talking about things like conflict velocity, which is how fast you escalate a disagreement. It even tracks an arousal baseline during video calls, on top of the pronoun usage and your physical proximity through GPS. It is a crazy detailed profile. Okay. Let's just state the obvious. This system is tracking, well, everything. And that has to bring up a huge question for you, which is, how is all of this incredibly personal, incredibly sensitive data being handled? So, Zocialized makes a really bold promise. Their big line is, your data never leaves your relationship. The whole system is supposedly built on this idea of local control and total security. But, you have to ask, can that promise actually hold up? Well, to back that claim up, they say they use something called Edge AI. And what that means in simple terms is that all the analysis happens right there on your device, not on some company server in the cloud. They also state very clearly that no raw video or audio is ever stored by the company. And maybe most importantly, you, the user, can just turn off the biosync tracking whenever you want.
All right, so let's zoom out for a minute. Let's step back from the tech specs. What does something like this ultimately mean for all of us?
When you really break it down, the Bond Integrity Monitor is trying to do something huge. It's trying to transform the beautiful, chaotic mystery of love into a solvable data problem. It takes all those invisible signals from the human heart and makes them visible, quantifiable, even predictable. It's really an attempt to swap out the uncertainty of human connection for the cold, hard certainty of an algorithm. And look, if a tool like this ever becomes mainstream, it could completely change how we think about our relationships, which really leaves us with one final big question to chew on. When love becomes a game of numbers, what does it even mean to win?